Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in America. It took the life of 50,000 people last year alone, but over 1.7 million people tried to take their own life. Why? What makes this such a phenomenon that makes it appealing to people? Why would people choose to select this alternative to living life? And as a Christian, how do I handle these things when they come into the lives of my family or my friends or even in my own life? How do I handle these thoughts? I want to talk about all of these things and more in a serious discussion on suicide today as we discuss things on the Small Town Pastors Podcast. All right, so suicide, it's a tough topic. It's a pretty serious one. And it's an important one to get to the heart of because it is very frequently a problem in our American society today. Christians are not impervious to it. The successful are not impervious to it. The young are not impervious to it. It happens to so many people that we do not expect to see it happen to. So what is suicide? I want to discuss the nature of suicide first, and then I want to discuss the response. So the first thing I want to do is talk about its ethic and talk about what makes it wrong, and then understanding what makes it so wrong, talk about the appeal, why people choose it if it's so wrong in the first place. So first of all, suicide is the taking of one's own life, and it is self-murder. That's what makes it ethically wrong. You don't have the authority to take your own life. Just as I don't have the authority to go to my neighbor's house and say, Bob, I really like your couch. I think I'm going to kill you for it and take his life. That would be seen as a heinous, monstrous action, as a massively evil thought indeed. Yet if I was to do that own thing to my own life, it's much more conflicting. But we sometimes forget that it is still just as equitably evil. It is still just as monstrous to do such a thing to yourself. It is still such a heinous crime to commit. It is destructive. It is playing God with your own life. And it is something that's going to impact everyone that's connected to you. If you have a family, all of your family members, your spouse, your marriage, your kids, your parents, your siblings, every single person is going to be harmed by your decision to take your own life. It's a massively evil thing to do. And on top of the taking your own life aspect, most every motivation that can be provided for it is a selfish one that only serves your own feelings. And that also is sinful. So to have this strong, bad ethic, to understand the immoral nature of it, why in the world would anyone choose it if it's such an evil, monstrous thing? Because even though it is seen as evil and monstrous, and even the people who commit to it, they know this in their heart. They feel this. It's why out of 1.7 million who tried, only about 50,000 people succeeded, because it is really hard to go all the way through with killing yourself. It is hard to go through that because it is conflicting. Even when you don't want to live, you know in the heart of hearts how bad and evil it is to take your own life. So why? Why were there 50,000 people that did it last year? Why does it exist in our society? Why do veterans come home and take their life? Why do teenagers take their own life? Why do men who are successful with marriages and family and businesses of their own in their 50s and their 40s in the prime of life destroy that very life? Here's why. It boils down to one basic idea. And there's many factors that can lead to this, but there's one basic reason why. Because the future seems too difficult to bear. There's too much bad in the future. Whatever life offers, it is not worthwhile enough to live anymore. Whether it's guilt and shame for something that's been done, whether it's economic depression and you feel like you can't get out of it, whether it is health, some kind of diagnostic, whether it is relationships, or just loneliness or anxiety or depression, or all of these things, these various factors, they all lead to this one point where you say, as I look forward in life, I see nothing but bad. Only thing I look forward to, the only thing that I can understand is that my life will be bad from here on out. And I'd rather have no life than a bad life. And it's great and evil. One evil in taking a life is, it's not as bad as living an entire life full of evil. That's the appeal. That's the justification. Now, it's wrong. It's a lie, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But that is why people go through this, and it all boils down to, and it's a generalization, but it does boil down to this, where they say, I don't care about my past or my present. My future in front of me is not good. And whatever problem I'm enduring and experiencing right here, right now, I can only see bad results from it. Now, I'm going to tell you right now why that's false and why, ironically, suicide is the worst answer to that problem. Because that is a real problem. We do go through these things in life. We commit these heinous actions and we feel guilty. We go through economic depression and we feel worthless and vain. We have bad relationships and bad things happen in relationships. And we feel lonely. All of these things are very real. And those feelings are justified in that you do have these bad moments that cause these mindsets and these statuses. But to think that removing life cures it is a fallacy. If your problem is that you don't feel loved, removing your life is also going to remove the solution of being loved. You will never be loved in this life. You will never have someone who loves you and treats you that way if you commit suicide. If you're guilty of something and you want to remove that guilt, you will always be seen as guilty. You will not remove that guilt. You'll just remove the ability or the opportunity to be forgiven of that guilt in this life. Same thing with economic depression. If it's something that's going on in your life, your business, your wealth, whatever it is, and you say, I can't find a way out, I'm going to take my own life, you eliminate the opportunity to succeed, to have victory in your life. Every time you do this, every time that it's chosen to commit suicide as a way out, what you're actually doing is preventing the solution. You're preventing the way to live. That would be like a doctor seeing a man who is badly hurt in the hospital and going up to him and saying, look, we're just going to kill you because this is the easier way. There are solutions. We could heal you, but it's going to hurt along the way. So we're not going to heal you. We're just going to kill you outright. That's a ridiculous conclusion. That is the silliest of ideas, and yet it is exactly what we buy into when we entertain the idea that suicide is the better alternative. We eliminate every possible solution from ever being truly possible anymore. Now, spiritually, I've been asked this before as a pastor, and I want to address this, then we'll talk about the response side. The consequence of sin in this life and the next, and how suicide is punished in spirituality. Or in other words, what happens to Christians who commit suicide? What's the punishment? Are they removed? Are they no longer Christians? Are you kicked out of heaven for committing suicide? That used to be a common idea, and it still is in the Catholic Church, but not in the Protestant Church. There are two subsets of Protestants: those who believe you can lose your salvation for various reasons, and those who believe you cannot lose your salvation for various reasons. Both of those groups, neither of them would entertain the idea that suicide is one of the things that causes you to lose your salvation. There's no biblical precedent for it. There is a biblical precedent for punishment for suicide or for guilt for suicide, but there's never a moment where because someone committed suicide, someone says that God undoes the grace that he gave them. The suicide that is recorded in scriptures, whether it's Judas Iscariot in the New Testament or some of the kings in the Old Testament during warfare, thinking of like King Saul and others, These moments of suicide are described, but none of them talk about God saying, well, you shouldn't have done that. Now I'm going to undo everything I ever did for you. I'm going to undo the forgiveness, the grace that I've done for you. No, that is not a thing. That's not a biblical precedent. So, yes, there will be judgment in the end, but no, that judgment does not include a removal from the hand of God. You are still redeemed. You're just committing a large fallacy, logical sin error in your life. You're doing something that is ridiculous, heinous, terrible, and yes, there will be judgment for it. But no, if someone you know has committed suicide and they were a Christian, you can still anticipate sharing eternity with them someday. And I hope that offers you some peace through some turmoil if that is your situation. Now let's talk about our response, talking about being connected to people who have had this happen. Let's talk about our response as Christians. How do, as a Christian, respond to suicide? Here's what we need to do. First of all, if there's someone in our life that's attempting suicide, we need to rescue them through love. It is the absolute best weapon we can use against suicide, because the crux of suicide is worthlessness. It is vanity of life. If we can reveal to people that they do have a purpose, they do have a worth, they do have a value in our eyes and in the lives of others, that is going to help save them from that mindset. It's going to help rescue people out of the idea that they're worthless. But it's got to be a love that is active and aggressive, that's not passive. Scripture says that God, while we were sinners, demonstrated his love for us, right? It doesn't say that he declared his love for us. Just telling someone you love them and you hope the best for them, that's nice. Those are nice words. But for someone who's going through these things, they need proof. They need active, working love, sacrificial love. They need something that demonstrates and reveals to them. And I think a good example of this is the lesson from the Good Samaritan that Jesus gives in his parable, where the man who's robbed, mugged, beaten, cast aside, and is dying on the side of the road is passed up by those who should love him. And then the Samaritan, the one that's outside of the realm, the one who's looked down upon by everybody else, and probably by the very man here, he chooses to love. And not only does he choose to love, he cares for him. He lifts him up. He gives up his seat, lets the wounded man take his seat on his donkey. He carries him all the way to the nearest town. He gives him health and wealth. He bestows back to him his rest and his energy and his life source. And then he pays for him to be able to live, because this man has no money anymore. All of this was at great cost to that Samaritan. And yet, it gave life back to that man. Now, if that Samaritan came up to him and said, I'm sure sorry this happened to you. I just want you to know that I love you, and I hope good things happen in the future for you. Do you really think that that would have accomplished anything in that man's life to restore his value back? We as Christians need to do much better than just simply declaring that we love people out there and saying, yeah, I love everybody. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone. You need to start actually loving people that are close to you and that are far from you, that think like you and that do not think like you. Because the people who are committing suicide are the afflicted ones, and the afflicted ones need love. You have people in the transgender community, in the homosexual community, people, again, who are in the depressed, veterans who are coming home, young teenagers who are conflicted with the variant messages that they've been given. All of these people that we just choose to ignore because we don't think like them, we don't have those kind of situations, we don't relate. In fact, we might even go an extra step. We might even despise some of that in some of them. We as Christians, our response needs to be love, active love. And when it happens to someone that we know, we can take action by just simply showing that person how much they are valued. Showing them, not just telling, showing them how much they're valued in their life. And that would go such a long way if we as Christians did that for those around us. The last thing, how do we respond when it happens to us? How about when it's in my heart, when it's in my life, when it's my soul that's conflicted? How do I handle that? Well, first of all, you should know that you're not alone. That if you can be one of the best Christians in the world and have this kind of thing happen to you. In fact, we have that recorded for us in Scripture in 1 Kings 19, where the man of God, Elijah, arguably the most important prophet, the one who didn't even see death because he was so honored by God, is sulking in a cave, selfishly asking God, I wish you'd just kill me now because my life is only as valuable as the dead ancestors in my life. It can happen to any of us. Because what happens is we get selfish and we start thinking about our own life and what we want in it. And when we don't get what we want, we feel like our life doesn't matter. Elijah felt that way. He had just seen God do awesome things on Mount Carmel, and because he was threatened by an evil queen, I'm going to kill you tomorrow, you better run away. He does. He runs away. And he starts complaining to God. He says, I'm alone. I'm tired, I'm grumpy, I'm sitting in a cave, this is ridiculous, my life doesn't mean anything, and even if it did, people would just kill me. So why don't you just kill me, get it over with? This is something that even Christians can fall prey to, even the faithful can fall prey to. And so we have to be on our guard. But the solution is in the same chapter in 1 Kings 19. God speaks to the prophet Elijah with two things. He says, first of all, Elijah, I've got a question for you. What are you doing here? And Elijah says, I'm running away because I'm the only one left and I'm trying to survive. And then God gives him this object lesson, how nature in all of its power through earthquake and fire and wind and all of these things can be very scary and powerful. And then God in a whisper reveals he is more powerful than even earthquakes and whirlwinds of fire. And it reveals to Elijah, and he causes Elijah to remember that his revelation, his purpose of life is a God, not himself. And he's a lot more to fear in God than he does in anything in this world. And that some evil queen had nothing on what God could do. And so with this understanding, renewed idea of the fact that he wasn't alone, he had God. God also tells him, hey, by the way, also there's several thousand people. Several thousand people. You think you're alone, you're not. You're lying to yourself. You're telling yourself these lies. You're buying into these lies. Don't do it, Elijah. So we need to learn that same lesson where we ask ourselves, what am I doing here? God is way more powerful than any circumstance in my life. And I can rely on him, and I need to remember that my calling is for God, not myself, and that whatever selfish ambition I feel disappointed in right now, God is bigger than that. I think it's important that we have that mindset for ourselves. So as a Christian, how do you respond? You respond with love for others and with humility for yourself. You realize God is more important than you are and than your desires. And for other people, you realize that you have a calling to love those people. Actively, not just passively, not just orally, not just saying, with your words, I love people, I love you. No, you need to reveal your love sacrificially to those around you. And if you are one of those considering it today, the first thing I would tell you is don't. It is not the better option. Don't believe the lies. The lies are there. They will be there. Don't believe them. And if you need someone, you can contact me. I will talk to you. But find someone in your life that you love and that you trust and you probably know loves you even if you're feeling lonely in this moment. And share with them that you're going through these things. Don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. If this podcast has been of a help to you, I know it's a longer one and I know it's a serious one. If it's been a help to you, I would like you to tell me. You can message me on Instagram. Rev Jordan on Instagram. You can also, find me through my email if you want to email me. There's a lot of ways to get in contact with me, or just comment right here on the video. Would love for you to just say this has been a very helpful video to me, and if you want to tell me and share with me why, I would love to hear that too. This is hopefully something that we as Christians can take more serious as our society progresses down this terrible path. And And hopefully we can reveal the love of God to the world and use that as a cure for the sin and its consequence in this world. We've got some more videos coming out, and so please keep your ear to the ground as we're to talk about some pretty exciting things, some fun things, and some more serious things. So in the meantime, though, subscribe if you would. Click that button, and comment, share anything, like the video. That would be helpful as well. Would love to get this out and to share it with as many people as possible. In the meantime, and until next time, I'm Rev Jordan. This is a Small Town Pastors Podcast. I'll see you later.